Hello and welcome to the School Safety Free Period. I'm Amanda Klinger,
And I'm Dr. Amy Klinger.
and we're the founders and the directors of the Educators School Safety Network. We're a national nonprofit, and we provide educator-focused professional development resources and technical assistance to K-12 schools throughout the U.S. and Canada. You can find us at our website, www.eschoolsafety.org. In our daily work as trainers and researchers, we typically take a fairly serious, studious approach to the critical work of school safety and violence prevention. However, in this, our school safety free period, we're a little less formal, a little less academic, and a little more fun, if I'm being honest. We examine school safety issues and current events in a more informal, conversational fashion. So let's get started.
All righty. Well, I got one for you.
Okay.
Okay. So this poor middle school, I have a feeling they've gotten a lot of unwanted publicity about this. But there is a middle school in North Carolina that and let's just start with it's a middle school. Those are my people. Spend half my life with middle school. It is a unique world in the middle school. But anyways, so this North Carolina middle school has removed the mirrors from the bathrooms
Mm-hmm.
because they said students were taking regular lengthy breaks to make social media videos. So I guess TikTok or something else.
TikTok. No,
Um,
just it was definitely TikTok.
yeah, so the PIO said that students were going to the bathroom for long periods of time and making TikTok videos. So what was sent to the parents says, and I'm quoting now, on average, students visit the restroom 3 to 4 times a day. Some were asking to go out more frequently and staying for upwards of 5 minutes or more. And so they
It's
had
a
people
data
that were,
driven approach at least, right? I mean
uh,
that's a pretty it's a lot of data there on student restroom use. What?
wait, I have more data.
Okay.
That number then increased to up to 9 times a day.
Oh,
So
oh.
yes. So there is a couple of issues. Well, there's so many things, but there's a couple of issues here and again, let's start right off the gate by saying I am not picking on this middle school, but it does raise some really interesting questions. So this is more of a reflection than a finger pointing sort of exercise.
Mhm.
So my first question is apparently when
Why?
a
Oh,
student
no, that's
what
not the first. Why? What the heck? No, that wasn't the first question. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So apparently, when a student says, I need to go, I'm going to go to the restroom, that they go. It apparently is an on demand sort of situation where I'm just going. Sometimes back in the day, my students had to ask if they could go. They couldn't just go, gotta go, out. So 9 times a day, that would be you'd have to go every period, I guess. And not to mention, can you really make 9 TikTok videos a day? Or is it maybe sometimes you're actually legitimately there and other times you're I mean, so is this a school full of influencers? Would be my other question. But so there's a whole bunch of like kind of smart aleck sort of
Mhm.
questions. And then I think there is maybe some takeaways at the end.
Well,
So
I want to say a couple of things. Number one,
we're
I
starting with the smart aleck ones, right?
well, I want to say I just want to push back a tiny bit on your whole back in my day we didn't let the kids use the restroom thing, which is I understand that there's value in having some boundaries around what you can do in terms of dipping out of class whenever you feel like it. However, I understand that schools are probably in a pretty tough position. It puts you in a tough position to say to a kid, no, you can't go to the bathroom. So I can kind of understand why schools have had to soften that position a little bit. I think even before you get to whatever kind of smart aleck thing, okay, but you talk all the time in educational leadership. I see you sort of making that face. And you talk all the time in educational leadership about choosing your battles. I mean, really, is that the thing that you're going to say that we're going to have like such a high bar of strict scrutiny of whether you're allowed to leave to use the restroom or not? I mean, the issue is not that like you have a I mean, the issue is not that I mean, clearly it's gotten out of hand. So
But
that's
you
what
and
we have
I
to deal with.
know that when we're in the field and we walk into school, it takes us about, or at least takes me, you as well, takes us about 5 minutes to go, oh, here's the walk around kids.
Well, yeah.
These are the kids that are out walking around. They are on
Yes.
a tour of the school that starts in their classroom where they briefly make an appearance and then they're out and about the rest for quite some time. And it always centers around, I'm going to take, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm taking the scenic route. I mean, this has
Mhm.
been happening forever.
Mhm.
So it's really kind of a question of, there's so many push pulls on this, to your point. So are we going to say you can't go to the bathroom and you have no personal right or
Mhm.
responsibility or accountability, that the authorities are going to control your kidneys of when it is you need to use
Yeah.
the restroom and when you don't?
Yeah.
Clearly no. But on the other hand, is it really an on-demand situation when we know, in point of fact, when you have so much data that kids are going out that frequently for that long,
Mhm.
maybe
Well,
there's something we could do other than take down the mirrors. Maybe there are other things other than TikTok that are at play here.
I just want to say my snarky comment is really the takedown of the mirrors was like the last stand that everyone had to do, like a Les Miserables level building the barricades over the mirrors. Like that's the part that I'm like, oh, that was what pushed this over the edge. I guess my question is they rest so heavily and speak so authoritatively about that data, which indicates to me either that data's made up, or if they really have that data, if they have that granular of data of how many times on average students are leaving and how often and how long they're gone, that leads me to believe you have a real keen understanding of where the kids are. Go get them and bring them back to class. You know what I mean? It would be one thing to say, anecdotally, we feel like kids are leaving more for longer. Okay, but
True.
if you have such accurate data of how often the kids are leaving and for so long, then you have some way to track that. Then get out to the bathrooms in the hallways and get the kids back to class.
I guess that was kind of my response of, how I mean, if you want to take down the mirrors, have at it, I guess. Although I would argue that there is an equally, that while, and this is again from the media reports, that the school indicates they've seen a drastic decrease since they took the mirrors down. But then I would again, like we always do, I would challenge you to look at what might be the unintended consequences of that, in the sense of, what does that do to your climate or culture? How does that make kids feel?
Mm-hmm.
That we're not in this. I mean, as it is, if you've been to a school restroom, they're not exactly,
Spa like.
Bucky's level kind of restrooms. What?
The gold standard in restrooms, a real nice gas station.
Have you been to a middle school restroom? Bucky's is definitely better. But anyways,
Sure,
my
probably.
point is, there may be an unintended consequence of that. And to your point, which I think is absolutely correct, if I know kids are in the bathroom making TikTok videos, you know how I can stop it? Walk in the bathroom.
I
I
think,
walk in the bathroom
yeah.
and I either, as an administrator, a staff member, somebody,
Mhm.
I bop into the bathroom for a second. I'm either going to be starring in the TikTok videos or the bathroom is going to clear out.
Yeah.
So which of those two? I mean, it doesn't seem, and I understand you don't want to go in and out of the bathroom all day long, but on the other hand, you don't have to do it forever.
Right.
You just have to create this notion that we have regular supervision
Hmm.
where people are stopping into the bathroom to make sure, not that in a punitive way, but to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that it's clean, to make sure that everything's okay in there.
Right. That you're
It
not
doesn't
in.
have to
That you're
be
not
like
in
a
there.
prison search.
Right. I mean that you're not. I mean, and we talk about this all the time. That duality of, are we supervising, are we surveilling, or are we supporting students? So popping in to check on you in the bathroom, it doesn't have to be like you said that it's a prison sweep and I sweep you out of the bathroom. It could be like, I want to make sure you're not in here like weeping. Like I want to make sure you're not in here, be getting sick. I want to make sure that everything's okay. I mean, that can be both of those. And I guess the only thing I would sort of postulate is I think it's maybe a false conclusion to say that the disappearance of the mirrors is what caused bathroom usage to come back in check. I would be pretty sure that it was the disappearance of the mirrors and also they were doing stuff differently. Like they
Well,
were
it
in the
does
bathroom
say that they had
supervising.
implemented, are implemented a digital hall pass system to track the general whereabouts of students. I like the general whereabouts. They're in the building somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, yeah, I think to your point that that's exactly correct. That perhaps it wasn't the disappearing mirrors, but the level of awareness
Mm-hmm.
or the fact that we need to do something that we have now invested in more time and energy of like, hey, we need to because here's my thing. As I told you earlier, when it said that they were gone for 5 minutes or more, if I, as a teacher, have a student that leaves and doesn't come back for
Mm-hmm.
quite some time, that's on me
Mm-hmm.
that I have not noticed that perhaps the student has overdosed in the bathroom, collapsed in the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
left the building,
Mm-hmm.
encountered some other. So it
Yeah.
is a safety concern to say, go to the bathroom, see ya, and,
Mm-hmm.
and never worry about when they come back
Mm-hmm.
till they're done editing their TikTok videos.
Yeah.
So I think that there are indeed safety concerns here as well as climate and culture concerns.
Yeah.
And to stop picking on this poor school, we see that all the
Yeah.
time. As I said earlier, when we have kids that are out walking around, there is the issue of them out walking around, not being involved academically,
Mm-hmm.
all the other things that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the issue of somebody has neglected to check on or invest in where this kid is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, unfortunately, it is sort of that relief of that kid is disruptive and now he's out of the way and I can get busy and teach. Now, no one will admit that, but we have to, there is a little bit of that.
Yeah. I
But
want
what
to,
does
I
it
want to,
mean when you're that many times a day out wandering around?
yeah. I want to go harken back to what you said about the digital hall pass system.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you can guess what I'm going to say, which is it's great. We have a software tool that helps me, right, to keep track of the students, but that is a slippery slope
And it's
to.
no more accurate than your clipboard or your hall pass shaped like a paddle
Right,
that people use now.
I understand like that you can have a technology tool that can help you keep track and that you can get this data and so on and so forth, but it is a slippery slope to outsourcing the emotional labor to a technology tool. As a teacher, it is my responsibility to go, "Huh, that kid's gone. That kid has been gone for wow, it feels like a really long time." And the digital hall pass can like confirm like, "Oh, it's been 7 minutes." It doesn't just feel like a long time. It's been 7 minutes, but then the human element, the relational element of it has to kick in. And I think unfortunately, our teachers are so overstretched and our teachers are so overtaxed that a lot of times in schools we implement the tool, the technology tool, like the digital hall pass system, and we don't ever follow that up with.
To relieve that burden, but we don't,
Right.
yeah.
We don't ever follow that up with the support for teachers or carving out the time or the capability for teachers to be able to use that tool to go, holy cow, Amy's been gone for 14 minutes. I need to make sure everything's okay.
Well,
And that's the concern with the tools like that is that we go, great, we got the digital hall pass. I'm done. I'm just gonna go back to normal teaching.
and we often see where those digital hall passes are kind of used like security cameras in the sense of we don't use them in the moment to do what you just described to go, hey, it's been
Yeah.
12 minutes. Where are they? We use them after the fact to go, hey, that kid got in a fight. How long was he out of the bathroom, out of the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
And so we use them like we're going to rewind the security footage and watch. We use them to be reactive
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to being proactive, which is, hey, you've been out every period. I need you here in class. Or, hey,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're just going to use it to react to later on, use it forensically to reconstruct what happened when something bad, after something bad has happened,
Yeah. And
then I think that's a real problem with the system too.
yeah, and I think to that point, I am not anyone here's attorney. I guess I'm your attorney, but all of the listeners, I am not your attorney, and so this is not legal advice upon which you can rely. But I would challenge you to consider the impact of having such accurate digital records for when someone left your care, when someone left your supervision, and no mechanism by which to follow up on that. So if
So
something
you're
happens,
measuring, boy, that kid was gone for a long time. I
and
probably should have looked for him.
yes, and so if something happens, someone leaves and goes to the bathroom, someone leaves to go do a TikTok, and they get jumped in the bathroom and they're gone for 25 minutes, now we have a record of the fact that they were gone from your classroom for so long and no one was looking for them. No one
Yep.
was concerned. And that's kind of always the concern where we set up these well-intentioned technology tools, but we don't ever give people the bandwidth or the skills or capabilities to follow up with those tools, that we have just created this long record paper trail of all the opportunities that we missed to intervene about a safety thing. So that would be
Yeah.
maybe something to consider just from a legal liability standpoint.
Okay, so we've done the making fun. We have done some possible strategies that you
Mhm.
could remediate. You've done the pros and cons. You've done a little bit of legal. I want to finish with the most uncomfortable one.
Mhm.
Okay, so here we go. So people don't get mad at me, but I think we also have to ask the question, and we have experienced this in our field work as well. When what's happening in the classroom is more interesting than what's happening in the bathroom, kids will stay in the classroom. And so when you have a lot of all day, every day, I'm staring at a screen, it is much easier to just get up and go do something else. I mean, we all know that when you're
Mhm.
sitting at your desk working, I can get up and go to the bathroom and come back, as opposed to I'm heavily engaged in a meeting, or I'm having a really interesting conversation,
Mhm.
or I'm doing something that is, really has my attention.
Mhm.
And so we have to ask the uncomfortable question of, if what we're doing in the classroom was more relevant, engaging, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
would we have lower rates of students finding something else more interesting to do?
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we do not have a school here full of kids with kidney failure, or with, high levels of, UTIs that everybody's got to go rushing off to the bathroom. We have kids who are manifesting a behavior that says what's happening outside the classrooms is more interesting than what's happening in the
Mhm.
classroom. And I understand all the obstacles and the
Yeah.
things, and I know what you're going to say. Well, it's, how do we compete with social media? How do we,
Mhm.
I understand all those things. But the bottom line is, we have to consider that as one of our solutions too.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting when you said that the kids out walking around, that is a problem that we've had in schools even since back when you were in schools all day
Back in
every
the
day.
day when we rode our dinosaurs to school,
Yeah.
yes, back in those days.
And I think the real key difference between then and now is that it was a little bit more of an even playing field for the teachers, right? The teachers who are competing for attention, you're competing here in my classroom versus what is interesting, what's just kind of like happening out in the hallway in the bathroom. And now it's a deeply uneven playing field
Sure.
because teachers are competing against the whole internet and all of social media and mega multinational corporations that have billions of dollars at their disposal to compete for the attention of your students. So yeah, I get it.
But
It
what do
is.
we know is the universal constant of what kids want? They want to have interaction and human relationships. It is the underlying thing. So, why could we overcome some of this? Yes, we didn't have all the technology, we didn't have all these other things, and we can make a whole list of issues for society and the way that people value education and don't. And I know that list, I can make that list. But somewhere on that list, somewhere in this discussion, we have to also have just a moment of reflection on, why is it that some classrooms kids want to stay in, and other classrooms kids easily and constantly want to leave? And all things being
Mhm.
equal, those people are working in the same situations with the same set of constraints, with the same kids, with the same level of technology, but yet some classrooms kids stay in and are engaged and interested, and other classrooms kids aren't.
And
So
the
we
only,
have to
yeah.
think about that.
Yeah, and the thing that I will say, sort of anecdotally from the work that we do, if the kids that are out and about walking around, if we just want to say, well, that's just because social media and their phone is so much more interesting than anything I could possibly do. The deck is stacked against me. I can't gain any ground back here. anecdotally, when we are in schools doing vulnerability assessments, inevitably, every single time, what do I come across? I walk around a corner and there's Dr. Amy Klinger talking to one of those kids who's out walking around. And what and why? Why are they so interested to show this, like, you know, teacher,
Careful.
big teacher energy stranger, that big teacher energy never goes away, like this, like, woman that they don't know? Why are they interested? Because she's asking them questions. Hey, why, what's happens with this door here? When do you guys typically dismiss? What does that look like? And that kid is engaged in a conversation. And
Right?
so
And
that so
nobody is out walking around looking at their phone. They're out walking around trying to find other people to talk to. They're out walking around hanging out with their friends, doing crazy stuff, none of which should be happening. I understand. But most of the kids that are out there doing stuff are out there trying to establish relationships or interacting with other people. They're not leaving the classroom to go sit in a corner and look at their phone.
yeah.
They're leaving the classroom to go hang out and to
so
do different
so
things.
does that make you an influencer? I would say, by the transitive property of what we're talking about, if you can get the attention of random teens when we're out and
Mhm.
about doing assessments, I think that makes you an influencer. I
I
think you
do
should run
not.
with it.
I don't know about that, but I do think what started out as everybody laughs at this story and goes, "Oh, how ridiculous! You're taking down your mirrors." Really can lend itself to some very thoughtful
Yeah.
reflection on the part of all schools of what does that say? What are the symptoms
Hmm.
and what's the underlying disease? I love the idea of asking five whys. So you ask the why of why are kids leaving the ground? Why are they going to the bathroom? Why are they doing so? And you keep asking why five
Hmm.
times to get lower and lower or peel away more and more to get to
Hmm.
some of the root causes. And I think our fifth why might be because it's more interesting to be out there than in this classroom.
Yeah.
So, just some reflection, food for thought today.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that, just like one last time, that we kind of apologize for piling on, this specific school. This was in the news. This is a very typical problem. I think this particular school,
It could be any of
yeah,
us.
this
It's a
story,
school.
this particular school, I think the story gained a lot of traction because of the sort of comical element of the thing with the mirrors and so on. But this is a really typical, really pervasive problem, that we observe in the schools that we're in, that we are told about in, educators that we work with. And so, this is something that is applicable to a lot of different places. So sorry if we are piling on with this school at all, but it is a much more broad-based problem than that particular school. So, well, thanks so much for joining us for our free period. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, info@eschoolsafety.org. As always, we have lots of different resources available on our website, www.eschoolsafety.org. So until next time.